So last week I made a video about like the most insane patriotic American subreddits where they basically just thought the US could do no wrong and US foreign policy was awesome. They basically all believed in some form of neoconservatism from the Bush era, and not like a sequel to that because it's not really the same thing. But on that subject, I've been wanting to make this video for ages, and I've just been trying to think of a way to properly do it. Not that this is too different from how I was going to do it, but there's a subreddit called Just Boot Things, and it's basically mainly, I think, people who served in the US military primarily, making fun of people who take it way too seriously. And that's what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be looking at these people who take being in the military way too seriously. And I'm going to talk about, as like a leftist, how I feel about the US military. You can probably guess. It's not very positive. But I do have a caveat I want to expand on as like people who are in the US military versus the US military as a system and stuff. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at some really, really cringe TikToks. So prepare yourself for that because these are really bad. And also like the video because I've had to sit through loads to try and find some good ones to share. And then we're going to go on the subreddit and look at the various like jokes and discuss where these come from because, you know, there are serious memes about every new recruit buying like a Dodge Charger or getting married, but there's actually science and studies done on why new soldiers get married and buy these expensive macho cars. So all of that coming up for you today. Before we go any further, please like the video. And actually, if you are a veteran, if you're actually in the military, no matter what military, let me know, are there more people who take it way too seriously? Or are most people in the military because they want the financial benefits, which we're going to talk about as well at the start. So let me know down in the comments. Also follow me on social media at the Kavernacle on Twitter and on Instagram. Instagram is where I'm posting about my travels around Asia. I'm currently in Cambodia. And if you care about that even more, on my Patreon, I am posting one exclusive video per month. So recently, me and my girlfriend Holly spoke about Vietnam. And then after we're done with Cambodia, we're going to talk about Cambodia. So I'm trying to build up as many $1 to $3 patrons as possible. And the benefits you also get are access to the patrons Discord server and get my Nintendo Switch friend code. Also check out the second channel, the Kavernacle Extra, and check out my subreddit. So before we go on to the TikToks and go on to all of that good stuff, I want to talk about my opinion of the US military first. So obviously, as a leftist, anti-capitalist, communist, all that stuff, I don't like the US military. I think the US military is inherently a force for bad. It has literally been the most destructive military on the entire planet since the end of the Second World War. What it did in literally the region I'm in right now, Cambodia, Vietnam, Southeast Asia, is literally the most disgusting stuff I think any country has basically done in the post-World War II history, especially because the US framed it as something good. When it was like the worst colonial war of all time, poisoned and destroyed multiple countries for what? Anti-communism, again, absolutely disgusting. The US has never properly reconciled with that, I feel, especially when they had all these sanctions against these countries. And I believe some of them still actually do have sanctions in some form from the United States. And then you also have stuff like the Iraq War, Afghanistan, and you have various military interventions across Africa as well. The US military is no force for good in the world. And it probably does surprise a lot of people in America that loads of Europeans, Asians, they don't actually like US military bases in their countries. It doesn't make them feel more safe. And also, these people often act with impunity when they are in the US military in other countries to the local communities. So no wonder loads of people, especially in Korea, Japan, and Germany, and other countries, absolutely hate the US presence there. There's also a lot of US military bases in England as well, but I don't really know any in my local area, and I haven't seen too many American servicemen in my life. So yeah, by and large, US military, force for bad in the world and a force for upholding American domination and American capitalism. So that being said, as part of my history degree, we looked at how Richard Nixon and Ford reformed the US military and transitioned it from like this draft force to a more professional military. And to do that, they had to make it appealing as a career path. And obviously, historically, the military was one of the first desegregated elements of government service. So you had a lot of minorities joining, and historically, you've had minorities joining as it was one of the only career paths open to them to actually kind of move up in society and get out of poverty. But then after the Vietnam War, they played on this even more. So they literally designed the US military to appeal to people by giving you benefits you don't get in the rest of society. And because America has such terrible poverty in certain areas, it's attractive to join the US military because you can go to college, you can get various skills, you can get degrees and stuff, you can get healthcare during and afterwards. So it can be a very good choice to join the US military, especially if you have no prospects or if you live in poverty. And it's this cycle that has been going on for years, and that's why often you get the US military casualties in war being disproportionately minority groups, especially African Americans, because they are overrepresented in the US military because it preys on people in poverty. This is something the UK military kind of does as well, although the UK military benefits aren't as good as the US one in comparison with your average civilian, so there isn't as big of an incentive, but there's still lots of benefits to joining the military. So I totally understand why lots of people join the military while having no love for the US at all, while having no love for the country or the military, or even want to fight these wars and stuff. So I don't inherently hate people who serve in the military, but I will say another caveat to that is if you're signing up to the US military, it is possible you're going to go fight in one of these like illegal wars for oil. So what you've done is you've made a choice that you're going to improve your life because it's bad and stuff by going and ruining the lives of people who are far poorer than you. And that's what I will say is that although I understand why people join the military, at the end of the day, if you're from the US, you are joining with the possibility of going over to another country, either making their lives worse or killing a bunch of people who are way worse off than you, and you're doing it to uphold an American empire. Like I said, I don't inherently hate veterans. I don't inherently hate people who serve in the military because I understand how America actually designs a system to push you into the military. They've even said as much that if Biden starts forgiving student loan debt, they're not going to have as many military recruits. But at the end of the day, it is a choice that you're making, which could potentially ruin a lot of lives. And on that note, before we get into cringe military worship and like pro-American military members and stuff, I just want to show a couple TikToks of US soldiers asking other soldiers why they joined the military. And if you search this in TikTok, you're going to get a bunch of these. And most of them say they don't know, or they joined it for financial benefits or to go to school. So let's have a look at two I found and see what these soldiers say.
Asking people why they joined the Army.
Marshall, why'd you join the Army?
I don't really know. I just did.
Benny, why'd you join the Army?
For education.
Solomon, why'd you join the Army?
I don't know.
Sergeant Pearson, why'd you join the Army? Sergeant McGuire, why'd you join the Army?
I love America.
Sergeant Hill, why'd you join the Army?
So I wouldn't go to jail.
Teo, why'd you join the Army?
For school.
Alvarez, why'd you join the Army?
I joined for school and didn't even go.
I joined the Army to pay for my school, and I want to be a part of a family because I love my whole platoon. I love the Army so much.
To help my mom and to help out the country. Bitch, I want money. The
To break generational curses.
Aww. Why did you join the Army?
For the benefits. I joined to pay for school.
So obviously that's a small sample size, but I've watched a lot of these today. And most people say either they don't know, they're idiots, or they want to pay for school or pay for something else like, someone's healthcare and stuff. So that is just, before we get into all this stuff, and obviously like shitting on people who are really like pro-American and pro-military, I just wanted to give that insight and just show that a lot of people kind of force into this as like the best option to either get out of poverty and stuff like that. But like I said, the caveat still remains. I don't think joining the military is a good thing. I don't think you should join the military. And I think if it's a choice, you shouldn't do it, even if it can, potentially improve your material benefits and you're in a bad situation. Same way I feel about like being a landlord. Like people often say, well, what if I'm in this situation? I'm like, well, still don't do it. Like, why do you have to make someone else's life worse and exploit someone else? And in the US military's case, potentially kill someone else to make your life better. Surely there's another way and you can feel better about yourself and you can live with yourself more. So we're going to get into like the pro-patriot stuff. And I thought we'd start with some cringe TikToks. And just from my perspective of the military, I would never join, like ever. And even if I was being invaded by another country like the UK, I'd just run off to Ireland. If Ireland got invaded, I'd probably keep running, although I would be more likely to help out in like guerrilla activities as part of the Irish army, because that's what they actually train to do, than the British Army, because I hate the UK more than I hate Ireland. But anyway, let's get into some cringe TikToks. I'll probably play you a couple at a time and then we'll talk about them. So here's the first one. I always love US soldiers thinking they're really cool and hardcore because they're in the Marines and stuff. Like this TikTok saying that if your BF ain't in the Marines, he's a bitch. I mean, if he's not in the Marines, he's probably a bit smarter than the person in the Marines. And then you have other people like this talking about practicing their drills in boredom, wearing like full military getup, and then adding like they're crying because of the memories. I don't know. This stuff is just really, really embarrassing. So here's one I've actually played before. And because he's singing a song from Vikings, I'm probably going to have to replace it with a song from Assassin's Creed Valhalla because video game companies don't copyright strike video game music so much. I'll try and make it a bit more like upbeat to fit in with this guy. So basically, he's singing a song that is sung in Vikings by, is it like King Harold and his brother, while the theme tune for Vikings plays in the background. And he's wearing like, I think loads of makeup, and obviously he's tatted out, and he's just like walking towards the thing. And like, to be fair, this video obviously has a lot of effort in it. But it's also the cringiest thing I've ever seen. So have a look at my like remix version of this.
Hearken well in Hall of Kings. On ocean steed my words gain wings. Odin's mead I forth will bring. For noble deeds thine honour sing. The brave man slain Valkyrier waits. Reward for strain to Valhalla takes. Then horns resound the mighty hall. For those who fight, for those who fall. For those who fight, for those who fall. Warlord weaves his well.
So that's probably one of the worst things I've ever seen. And I absolutely hate TikTok. I don't know if you guys know that. Like, I think it's the most irredeemable social media. Because as someone who suffers from secondhand cringe, what I always think about when watching TikToks like this is the process in creating this TikTok. Like, coming up with the idea and thinking, oh yeah, that's really good. And then there's obviously a load of effort that's gone into that in terms of he has multiple shots of him walking towards the camera and like costume changes. He's shaved his beard off. I don't know if he's even got a haircut. And obviously he's wearing a lot of makeup. It looks like a vampire to start with. And then by the end, he's wearing like a completely different dress outfit. And then he watches it a bunch of times while editing it and then thinks it looks good and thinks it's not embarrassing and posts it. This is embarrassing anyway. Don't do this anyway, even if you're not doing it as part of the military. But he just thinks he's so cool and he just thinks it looks so sick. And that's what makes me cringe so hard. I guess the lack of self-awareness that anyone would find this like totally embarrassing. And, you know, I'm someone, you know, I make YouTube videos. Maybe someone I know is watching this and you're like, oh, he's so embarrassing, like putting himself out there. And I get that. But I think there's a line. There is being scared to put yourself out there in case someone thinks it's cringe and literally being so like unself-aware you can make stuff like this and think it's like awesome and sick. And obviously that was really popular. So loads of other people like that. And that is what we're going to see with some other TikToks. Like, yeah, some of them are just people having fun and doing dances. I think it's cringe. I'm a hater. I get that. But what I hate most is not so much the dances. I do hate the dances because normally they're an excuse just to first trap. But I just hate the first traps as well. Because I'm like, I cannot imagine doing this and thinking it looks sick. And even if I think it looks sick, still thinking everyone will love it. So I found this other account, and this wasn't on the subreddit. I just like looked this up on my own, trying to find US Army stuff. And it's this guy called Marvelous A. Ohana, and he's in the military, and he posts a load of stuff. But this one, I'm not gonna play the music, but just whipping on his outfit, doing like the first chat with his hair, thinking he looks all sick. Oh my God, it's just the worst. And then he has another one with his son, who I assume is also in the US military now, unless he just lent in one of his other outfits, and they're doing some cringe dancing, thinking they're all good looking and how sick it is. And oh my God, like I'm just imagining them filming this and thinking of The Quiet. And maybe like Neighbours looking and watching these two people dancing with their military outfits on while they're at home. So then he just has some like dances. And look, I'm a hater, right? So it's fine he's doing this. It's cringe that he's in like full military get up doing this, but whatever. Some people might like this. I just think it's an excuse for him to first trap. as badass as these guys think they are, I'm not going to play the music because it's copyrighted, but in this one, these three dudes are dancing to Taylor Swift. So there's nothing inherently wrong with that. Like, guys dance to Taylor Swift. I don't care. Do whatever you want. But the funny thing is the contrast in some of these videos where he's posing all macho, like, you know, I'm the man. I got these massive muscles. I'm in the US military, first trapping. And then they're dancing to Taylor Swift. Again, yeah, I know it's a bit of fun. I'm a hater. I find it cringe. I know it's a defect on my part. Before we go on to the subreddit, here is one more video I absolutely love. I saw this ages ago. So I can't play it, but he's mouthing along to the song and like talking. This is another cringe thing I hate about TikTok. People like miming stuff. And it goes beyond even miming music now, where they like mime scenes from movies for no reason. And sometimes it's just inserted in like a first chat. I absolutely hate TikTok if it's not clear. But I do love how much of a tough guy he thinks it is. Like, you know, if I was being rude to his super nice passive wife and he comes out with his dog, like he's gonna, like, I don't know, kill me or something. I love how these guys think they're so intimidated. I would just think like, you're such a dork, like thinking you scare me by being, by showing me you're like some brainwashed patriot who serves the US empire. So this is like a whole subgenre of people thinking they're sick wearing US military garb and stuff. And I bet this isn't exclusive to the US military, but the problem with the US is that they have this cult around the military way more than other countries. Like in the UK, I don't think anyone would ever say thank you for your service to someone in the military. I haven't heard of that as a thing. I'm sure some people do it. And actually, it's the month of November where people actually do go a bit crazy for the military in the Commonwealth countries. I know this is in Canada as well, where everyone has to wear a poppy as a symbol of remembrance to World War I, but now it means just like the general UK military. I don't wear a poppy because, you know, Irish background and stuff. I'm not worshipping the UK military. But yeah, generally, it's not as like culty. Where in the US, like so many people like, thank you for your service. You're a hero for being in the army, when it's just, you know, pretty ridiculous to think that, when the US Army literally never do anything heroic anyway, just do terrible things around the world. But yeah, this is why the guys probably think it's awesome to be in the military and make stupid TikToks and first traps wearing their military outfits. So Just Boot Things is a subreddit which I primarily think is like military veterans and people in the military making fun of other people in the military who take it way too seriously or think they look way too cool in their military outfit. So the subreddit description says, this community is dedicated to cringeworthy pictures, stories, and videos of people acting boot. This is not a place of bashing the military. No law enforcement, EMTs, or any other professionals that are not military, unless the specific post involves both the military and another profession. And there's actually another subreddit which makes fun of like firefighters and policemen who all think they're like heroes in this way. So I want to go through some of the funny posts in this subreddit and then talk about some of like the real world things that influence the memes. So this post, someone forgot to thank him for his service. A guy who's got like, I don't know, vampire eyes saying, you did it. You brought the evil out of me. An American soldier, a warrior. You will feel my wrath and you will regret disrespecting an American soldier. The lion has awoken. You see stuff like this, which I don't even know if it's fake or not in terms of like, did a guy just do this for the meme picture? It's a guy wearing his Navy outfit saluting Maverick from Top Gun. I'm guessing at a cinema. This one's really funny. Showing up in ACUs to your civilian DUI hearing. Guy wearing full military outfit and like a military style backpack to go to court. Then you always see like stuff like this on Snapchat. I ran 3 miles in the rain before most of you civilians were even out of bed. Hoorah. Call me a boot again. I dare you. Well, there are lots of civilians who get up and actually run more than 3 miles before everyone else wakes up. Like loads of runners get up really, really early to do that. It doesn't make you cool. But also you're just an idiot then. If you think that's really hard and you don't want to start your days running 3 miles and then potentially getting shipped to the Middle East and then dying for American imperialism, then maybe don't join the US military in the first place. If this hard-hitting airman didn't get thanked for his 1-year service, and he's right, I'd be out here fighting for your rights and y'all show me no respect calling me a boot. I'm in the 1%. Maybe you should join the ranks and then you can talk to me. The 1% of like what? Idiots in the military who actually buy into all the propaganda and think anyone in the military is defending US civilians' rights at all. Obviously, this is all the propaganda you have to swallow for a lot of people because you either get people join the military like we've seen for school, college benefits, or you get all these idiots who join for genuine patriotism. And obviously, I've read Ron Kovic's like Vietnam stuff. And apparently, like loads of people in high school in America read that And you'd think, since it's so popular, a lot of people would read that and think, oh, damn, like Ron Kovic might have been just like me, a patriotic American person. He then signed up for the military, had his life destroyed in a pointless war, and then was treated like garbage when he got home. Maybe I should take a lesson from that and like not join. And then one more about this type of thing. As I get on this plane to go back to basic training, I can't help but feel like I'm an American hero. Only a few weeks left and I'm going to be an American soldier. I wear the 101st badge in honor of my dad, who is a combat veteran. I mean, passing basic training doesn't make you a hero. I think there's quite high criteria to be a hero in the US military. And I would say the last heroes of the US military probably fought in the Second World War. And you can read lots of stories about that. People who did like absolutely insane things, battling the Germans and the Japanese and the Italians, not getting through like the halfway point of basic training. So there's something that always amazes me in America, especially when I'm like browsing the relationship subreddit. I spend a lot of time on Reddit, is how young Americans get married. Like seeing posts of like 19-year-olds being married and 21-year-olds being married. And a lot of time, one of them is in the military. And you see a lot of stuff like this. Like, look at this post for your wedding photo. Imagine bringing like some sniper rifle. You think this is like a Halloween outfit or something. And then you get stuff like this. What a wedding, what a burger. My Marine had very little time for wedding on 10-day leave. So they went back to my first date location and made a big memory. Congrats, kids. Love y'all. Like, okay. I think it's quite tacky. Maybe people think this is sweet. I will say though, what's the rush? Like, if you've got to get married in a Whataburger, like, do you have to get married so quick? Like, I've been going out with my girlfriend for nearly 10 years. What's really the rush? But we're going to see there is a reason why people in the military get married so young. I absolutely love this one. I think it was fake, but I saw this posted even longer ago, and someone actually knew the people. A barracks wedding, how much more boot can you get? So here is a wedding taking place at a literal barracks. And I guess everyone involved is in the military apart from the bride, and they're all standing at attention. And couldn't the requirement be, I don't know, wear something a bit smarter than shorts and snapbacks and hats? And look at this guy, I guess the best man who's up there, and he's wearing a snapback backwards. Like, even the guy getting married, like, come on. Like, you know, I'm not even big on weddings and stuff, but maybe dress up a bit nicer. Get other stuff like this, which is insane. Well, I don't know why he's blindfolded, but he's got the US Marine flag draped over him. Just an article, which was a study by the University of Massachusetts, Amherst. Why do military service members marry so much younger than the average Americans? In a study published in the latest issue of the Journal of Marriage and Family, Jennifer Lundquist argues that financial considerations and structural considerations of modern military service, such as deployment to war and the military's demand for frequent geographical relocation, leads to personal policies that rely on families to make these conditions more bearable for service members. These policies are part of a larger institutional culture that directly and indirectly encourages marriage among its recruits. When you look at marriage rates in the military, it's like going back in time to the 1950s, says Lundquist. Marriage is deliberately made to be compatible with military life because this is an important way to retain personnel. The conditions of military employment also lead naturally to marriage. There's stable employment, comprehensive family benefits, and economic mobility at an entry-level job. That's not a common job market condition encountered by most high school graduates. I would argue that military service offers a path to class mobility that most working class youth lack. And we kind of spoke about that a bit earlier. While previous explanations for high military marriage rates have been focused primarily on the incentives provided by housing benefits for married couples, housing benefits are but a small piece of the puzzle. I found that housing benefits actually played more of an escape role for enlistees than a financial one. Most of the narratives focus on the fact that barracks afford far less privacy than a private residence, and that barracks are subject to rules and scrutiny by one's superiors. So I don't know when this policy started. I don't know if it's before like Nixon's time, but this kind of reminds me of why the US military went under this big reform in the early 70s, is so you retain personnel and you make the military a career rather than something of like national service or like a general draft system like they did later in the Vietnam War. And obviously you can understand why someone would get married, but then the bad part is people marry people they don't even like, and then you might even have children, and then what happens is they grow up in either a toxic household, or they have to constantly change country, or they have two parents who don't really love each other, but they might come from poorer backgrounds, and one of them joined the military, and they got married to have better economic benefits. I'm sure some of you watching this like grew up in military families, so let me know how the experience was. So the last thing we've got to talk about is the meme about new recruits buying like cars like Dodge Chargers, and this is like a common thing in the subreddit. Like some of the most upvoted posts are people like buying their new cars, like muscle cars. So here's one. Congratulations on my guy on the purchase of his new 2020 Velvet Charger. I appreciate those who trust me enough to send their buddies to work with me. And we're going to read a little article about how these car salesmen are probably rubbing their hands together because it's quite predatory getting a guy who recently fell into like a fair bit of money or has a bit of money coming so he can afford car payments, but then you're going to charge him massively because they're such idiots and they're so naive. So this is like a really popular meme that new recruits get married at like 19 and buy a Dodge Charger, which they'll be in debt to for years and years and years. But there was an article because it said Dodge is discontinuing its Charger, and it just talks about like why it's popular in the military. So Dodge is discontinuing the sales of its gas-powered Charger and Challenger cars as it turns to electric vehicles. Their names could be resurrected in the future for electric muscle cars. It may be bad news for the troops, but it's personally great news for me, as I've heard the joke an unbelievable amount of times and struggled to find something more played out than the jokes about a soldier or a Marine buying a Dodge Charger, Ford Mustang with an impossibly high interest rate. But as much as I hate to admit, it's a common stereotype because it's true. Chalk it up to the fact that they look cool, or that it's the first time that a young service member is living on their own and making their own money. But the stereotype is so true, in fact, that one person on Reddit said they thought the army gave soldiers a Charger to go with their service contract. And while it's all well and good to do some good-natured jabbing at this stereotype, it's not just about irresponsible troops, but predatory practices used by lenders who know exactly who they're dealing with. The predatory lenders like to prey on young military members because they're often inexperienced with money, have little to no credit, and are usually very excited to spend that first paycheck. Tara Falcone, a certified financial planner and Navy spouse, told NBC in 2019. Car dealerships and lenders just off-post looking to take advantage of inexperienced service members is such a problem that earlier this year, California lawmakers proposed a bill that would mandate a 30-day cool-off period when they buy or lease a vehicle. Under the proposal, service members would be able to return any lease or purchase vehicle for enlisted service members. This is a very vulnerable group. Some of our more junior enlisted service members, said California Attorney General Rob Bonta, according to the AP, they have a little bit less experience in the world. They're often younger. They're often more financially vulnerable. Their wages are less than some of the more senior members of the military. So obviously the stereotype is very funny because people buy these cars because they look masculine, they look cool. But like I've been saying, the US military is quite predatory anyway because they target poor people. And when you get poor people into the military, where even that study was saying there's like more class mobility within the military for poorer people that they wouldn't get in general society, and then they come into like a fair bit of money. Like I know people in the military, you can often save up a fair bit because you're not paying for food or living expenses in the barracks, and then you can buy something nice like a car, and all these salesmen know that, so they're going to charge you massive interest rates. They're going to get you to pay over the odds because they know you're naive and you might not know what to do with money. But overall, this is my last video of the week, although it might come out in the middle of the week, and I just wanted to have some fun. There's no real point to this. I just thought it was funny to see people within the military community making fun of other people, and I guess there's like a split within the military, and I don't know like how one-sided it is. Like from what I've seen, I feel that most people join the military not out of some feeling of love for America, not out of some feeling of patriotism. They join the military for economic benefits. They join the military to maybe escape poverty. They join the military to go to school. And they get married young sometimes because it's just an easy way to get even more benefits and, you know, have some sort of companionship while you're sent all around the world as part of the US empire. Versus people who genuinely just join up because they're patriots and they want to serve their country and they think America is the best country on earth. While it might have been more balanced back in the past, it pretty much seems now it's more in favor of people just joining because it's a good way to escape poverty. And, you know, sometimes they say the quiet part out loud, like when I said earlier, Joe Biden wanted to forgive some student loan debt, and they're saying, well, if you do that, how will we get new recruits to the military? Because the only way we can advertise it to them these days is just by saying, join the military, get good economic benefits, which most of society don't have. And also conspiracy theory, that's part of the reason the US doesn't pass universal healthcare, because if everyone had universal healthcare, how quickly would the military recruitment rate drop? I have a feeling it would definitely affect it. Anyway, that's it for the video. If you are a veteran or in the military, I'd be very interested to hear what you guys think of anything you heard in this video. And if you made it this far, thank you for watching.